country changed the course of the war without making headlines. While cameras turned elsewhere, it wove a web, an invisible but deadly effective web. Established under the leadership of the Czech Republic, this system saved not only ammunition but also time.
And till the end of the year we will deliver 500,000 ammunition. Summer months, July and August, the deliveries were around 100,000 pieces.
The 850,000 artillery shells that reached Ukraine were not a one-time aid. They were like the lifeblood of a beating heart. Approximately 320,000 of these were 155mm artillery shells, the mainstay of the battlefield. These shells are fired daily in intense combat zones like Donetsk and Kherson, altering the course of the war. So how did all this begin? The name of the Czech plan on the ground is rhythm. Rhythm is not about increasing volume, it is about repeating with the same intensity. The first wave strikes, the second wave decides, the third wave breaks. This third part was where Ukraine faced the greatest challenges in 2024. The fluctuation in ammunition supply disrupted the enemy's battery chain. By 2025, an accumulation of 850,000 rounds closed this gap. Having enough ammunition to fire with the same intensity means the position can breathe. If the position can breathe, reconnaissance drones can wait for the second target. The destruction of the second target disrupts the attack rhythm. An attack with a disrupted rhythm is doomed to a show of force. The difference in this network lies in logistics. The Powidz forward deployment node in Poland reduced the send and return cycle from weeks to days. This is because the Powidz forward deployment site has enough storage and maintenance capacity for an armored brigade. The same pallet returning via the same train line is recalibrated in the same maintenance tent with the same torque wrench. If the warehouse, workshop, and transport lines are all part of a single plan, delays become the exception. When delays are the exception, the artillery schedule becomes reliable. When there is reliability, counterattack plans are made, not cost-cutting measures. That is why the plan is not a lifeline, but a tempo machine. Tempo does not manage the number of rounds, but the window. When the window is managed, it is not the enemy's armor that is penetrated, but their time. When time is penetrated, strategy, not tactics, is shaken. The air picture is the upper level of this architecture. AWACS platforms, Patriot and Narew layers, and the integrated air picture with IBCS form the umbrella that protects the fire. The umbrella works because it is seen, not because it hits. Because the umbrella narrows the enemy's range plan, even without hitting. A reduced range lowers the risk to the convoy on the ground. As the convoy's risk decreases, the ammunition arrives on time. If the ammunition arrives on time, the enemy battery cycle returns on the same day. A cycle returning on the same day shortens the battery's lifespan. A battery with a shortened lifespan must relocate. Every relocation means fuel and morale deplete every day. So, is 850,000 rounds enough? The answer must be given in terms of the threshold. The threshold is the moment when the fire ceases. At that moment, the enemy's attack either fades or makes a mistake. When they make a mistake, it's not the artillery that acts, but the armored vehicles and infantry. Armored vehicles return safely, infantry hold their ground, and the line closes. This scenario is not about numbers, it is about behavior. Behavior starts with ammunition, but does not end with ammunition. Because ammunition rhythm also changes planning. When planning changes, the appetite for risk on the ground increases. The Kaliningrad and Baltic geometry is the noisy backdrop to this picture. With two new allies showing off in a narrow sea area has become more expensive and more visible. Everything that is visible is recorded more quickly. Every recording produces a political cost. Moscow tries to reduce this cost with propaganda. But propaganda does not increase the rhythm. It only increases the volume. Volume does not replace bullets. No move that does not replace the bullet closes the window in an artillery battle. When the window does not close, the attack falters. A faltering attack poses a high risk to evacuation and reinforcement corridors. The argument that Russia is producing more overall is often heard. The total does not describe the window during the day. North Korean parties gather on the sea route, then suddenly disperse. Silence between parties can mean a gap on the front line. Gap is the third section's least favorite word. Iran and other sources' claims are also attempts to patch this gap. Patches do not secure the schedule. A bullet that does not secure the calendar leaves a question mark in the artillery commander's mind. A question mark means timidity in the trenches. Timidity is a skill that is killed by minutes. The Czech line has also reduced friction on the financial and contractual side. Many donors, many producers, one calendar. This sentence seems simple, but its impact is complex. A single schedule makes maintenance schedules predictable. Barrel changes and parts supply for the expected delivery fit into the same week. Two-stage fire plans are set for the same target set in the same week. First stabilization, then destruction, then cutting off access. When access is cut off, forward supply lines are disrupted. When supply is disrupted, the attack rhythm slows down. An attack with a slowed rhythm resorts to showmanship. Let's set aside the question of whether noise and showmanship are useful. They are useful, but only for a short time. Because showmanship produces two side effects on the battlefield. One, it inflates perception. Two, it amplifies mechanical fatigue. Fuel is consumed, equipment wears out, and personnel rotation becomes strained. If the artillery window remains unchanged during this time, the result on the battlefield stays the same. The unchanged result is the counter-battery strike of the same day. The counter-strike of the same day breaks the morale chain. A broken chain amplifies the question of why more imports internally. The value of the Powidz node is not just square meters of storage space. Data discipline and maintenance standards turn bullets into minutes. Minutes are the most expensive currency on the front lines. Any system that reduces the cost of minutes lowers the total cost of war. When total cost is considered, the sustainability of the mission increases. A sustainable mission nurtures political patience. Political patience provides the greatest protection for the logistics chain. Where the chain is protected, sabotage becomes more difficult, because there is an alternative route and alternative procedure for every link. Backup procedures prevent panic. Let's look at the invisible benefits of Baltic Sentry type activity. The US's monthly 6-digit, 155mm target, European factories, increasing shifts, and gunpowder supply all come together in the same picture. In this picture, new lines come online in France, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Slovakia. Gunpowder production, casing, priming, and barrel processing chains are scaled up. Scaling is not flawless, but if the direction is correct, the network fills in the gaps. If the network fills in the gaps, the number of gaps on the front line decreases. As the number of gaps decreases, the enemy's hope of finding a window of opportunity fades. When hope fades, command psychology becomes conservative. Conservative command multiplies the risk of an attack. The effect of winter must not be forgotten. Mud, cold, short days, and long nights increase the burden on logistics. The burden is also on the other side, but the advantage remains with whoever sets the rhythm. In winter, a second salvo fired during the day is more valuable than in summer, because the value of a single window doubles. As pressure on energy infrastructure increases, the chances of convoys being detected decrease. Decreased chances increase the cost of a wrong route. That is why ammunition is not stockpiled for winter, but rather a schedule is stockpiled. Stockpiling a schedule means making the statement, "It won't fall in these weeks," a reality. Making that statement a reality makes the defense resolute. The objection that Russia is boosting production with new facilities describes the medium term. In the short term, the supply chain will continue to face friction. Skilled labor, supply components, and the test quality line do not grow simultaneously. A facility's walls may be completed, but its rhythm does not emerge. Rhythm is born with the customer, the plan, and the train. The Czech plan is buying time at this very moment. Buying time means disrupting the competitor's present moment. When the present moment is disrupted, the mass of tomorrow cannot generate morale. A mass that does not generate morale remains heavy but ineffective on the field. Ineffective mass wears down policy and consumes the economy. Will pressure increase from Belarus and Kaliningrad? It may and will increase. However, this pressure will be directed towards stations, cables, and border patrols. As border patrols intensify, the risk of communication accidents also increases. For this reason, the network relies on a disciplined procedure and briefings in a common language. If a common language is established, the display of pressure carries news value but does not disrupt the plan, as long as the plan remains intact. The third day fire persists on the front lines. If the third day of fire remains, the closed position is not opened. The unopened position preserves the supply line. When the supply line is preserved, armored vehicles can advance and retreat safely. Let us ask, how is Ukraine expanding its tactical repertoire? The predictability of ammunition flow turns single-move tasks into two-move tasks. First secure, then strike. First secure the bridgehead, then close the crossing route. First dislodge the battery, then sweep the withdrawal route. These two stages reduce the stress of a single shot. When stress decreases, creativity increases. Creativity produces adaptive intelligence on the battlefield, not static intelligence. Adaptive intelligence disrupts the enemy's routine. An enemy whose routine is disrupted makes mistakes. So, does Russia disrupt this game with tactical nuclear threats? Threat rhetoric creates psychological pressure for a while. However, it does not close the window on the battlefield. Nuclear rhetoric does not affect the artillery's shells or the train's schedule. When it fails to affect, behavior on the battlefield continues as before. As long as it continues, bullets will be needed again on the third day. The question of where the necessary bullets will come from resurfaces. Imported parties and fluctuating quality weaken the response. A weakened response escalates the rhetoric. Escalating rhetoric cannot change the reality on the battlefield. The question of whether European domestic politics can bear this burden is serious. Election schedules, budget debates, and energy bills test political patience. However, this time the network and funds are ready. There are backup lines, joint order pools, and maintenance partners. The joint pool reduces costs. Lower costs reduce the political cost of the game. When the cost is reduced, it becomes easier to explain to the public. A truth that is easy to explain does not break in times of crisis. Unbreakable support maintains the rhythm on the ground. Support that maintains the rhythm allows the strategy to be flexible. Let us not forget the question: what do the soldiers on the ground feel amid all this talk? The answer for the soldiers is simple. Will there be bullets to fire tomorrow morning? As long as the answer is yes, taking risks becomes less frightening. As risks are taken, small gains accumulate. As small gains accumulate, the contours of the map change. When the contours of the map change, the political table shifts. No grand statements are needed for the table to shift. Rhythm moves the table. One should ask, what if the plan stalls? Because good plans have backups. If stalling is an exception, the network absorbs it. Within the network, there are alternative routes, alternative storage, and alternative financing. That's why the decline is shallow, not steep. A shallow decline doesn't cause panic on the front lines. A disruption that does not produce panic accelerates the return. The accelerated return, again, protects the third-day threshold. When the threshold is protected, the defense line holds again. The holding line wears down the attack and exhausts the supply. The exhausted supply shortens the attack. Can Russia break this cycle with permanent production? In the medium term, both sides will scale up. However, today's outcome depends not on tomorrow's capacity, but on today's window. Whoever controls the window today will use the capacity tomorrow. Capacity is the means to guarantee the window. A guaranteed window expands the planning horizon. The side with the expanded horizon avoids forced mistakes. The side that avoids mistakes keeps losses limited. The side with limited losses accumulates gains. Accumulated gains eventually lead to a breakthrough. The answer to the question, why are quality and distribution mentioned together in the same sentence, is short. Quality manages accuracy. Distribution manages time. When accuracy and time align, the target is hit. If one is missing, the target escapes. A fleeing target causes morale and fuel loss, but returns. A returning target tries again the next day. If the same intensity cannot be matched the next day, the line breaks. This is why the Czech line deserves to be called tempo machine. The tempo machine maintains the intersection of accuracy and time. The intersection is the decisive point of the battle. Let's give a concrete answer to the question, what can Ukraine do with this rhythm? It thickens the defense on fixed lines. It opens local attack windows. It clears bridgeheads. It pressures forward resupply points. It establishes counter-battery superiority, piece by piece. The operation design proceeds in two stages. In the first phase, it dislodges the enemy from its position. In the second phase, it blocks the enemy's retreat routes. These two phases give meaning to the phrase artillery is speaking. Meaning arises from sustained fire. There is a short map for the question, where is the Russian army struggling? 1. In counter battery fire. 2. In the third day's assault intensity. 3. In barrel and shell fatigue. 4. At the fixed speed of supply corridors. 5. In command psychology. The sum of these 5 determines the rhythm. Those who lose the rhythm lose the day. Those who lose the day cannot win the week. Those who cannot win the week cannot control the map. Those who cannot control the map cannot set the table. So why can the Czech Republic do this? There is funding, there are contracts, there is task sharing, there is a network, there are procedures, there is a transparent schedule. This trio transforms the psychology of charity into supply management. Charity is flexible, supply is disciplined. Discipline is the raw material of rhythm. Rhythm is the only enduring language of war. The language is understood on the front lines. The front lines understand the plan, not the poetry. The plan is written with bullets. What will be the geopolitical outcome? The Kremlin will have to explain the costs of its long-term war strategy more extensively domestically. As dependence on external supply increases, the narrative that our own industry is sufficient will erode. The eroding narrative reduces public confidence. As confidence declines, the propaganda dose increases. The rising dose produces short-term waves, but does not change the long-term rhythm. As long as the rhythm does not change, the map does not move. If the map does not move, the table does not harden. A table that does not harden seeks interim solutions. An interim solution means accepting the rhythm on the ground. Let us ask, what will happen this winter? And be realistic. Energy pressure will increase. Convoy risks will grow, and the day-night difference will complicate plans. However, if the flow of bullets is uninterrupted, the line will hold as long as it is defended on the third day. If the line holds, tactical breakdowns will not turn into strategic upheavals. War proceeds in such flows, not with grand statements, because it is easy to make grand statements, but difficult to establish a rhythm. Those who do the difficult work already make the easy statements. Easy statements are heard at the table. What makes the table heard is the sum of silent days. Silent days are the raw material of the Czech plan. The answer to the question, will the 1.6 to 1.8 million range be visible, lies in intent and capacity. There is intent, capacity is increasing, and frictions are manageable. Manageable frictions mean that declines remain shallow. Shallow declines mean that the rhythm is maintained. If the rhythm is maintained, even the toughest weeks of winter can be planned. A week that goes according to plan boosts the commander's courage graph. The courage graph brings new ideas to the field. New ideas disrupt the other side's routine. The side whose routine is disrupted makes mistakes. The side that makes mistakes loses time. The answer to the question, who wins time, is whoever delivers the bullet on time. Delivering the bullet on time means running the calendar, not the factory. Those who run the calendar consider the railway, the warehouse, and the maintenance key as part of the same problem. A network that solves the same problem produces the power to strike twice on the same day. A target struck twice is forced to think a third time. A commander who thinks a third time cannot expand the attack. An attack that cannot expand wears down. A worn-down attack burdens the rear with supplies. As the load increases, the supply chain becomes fragile. A fragile supply chain increases the political cost. Don't worry that this narrative is too technical. For the soldier on the field, technical details are the language of survival. When a fuse is delayed, a life is lost. When a wagon arrives early, a position is saved. At this scale, victory comes not from big blows but from the sum of small hits. The Czech plan is precisely about increasing that sum. The growing sum shifts the map inch by inch. A map shifting inch by inch becomes noticeable one morning. When it is noticed, people ask, what happened? The answer is simple. The rhythm. Who will utter the final sentence? If a seamless flow is maintained throughout the winter, the likelihood of a tactical breakthrough increases in the spring. When the likelihood of a breakthrough increases, the table is ready to hear the new sentence. The content of this sentence is written in terms of negotiation and security. The guarantee of security will be knowing that the bullet will arrive on the third day. This information suppresses the other side's appetite for attack. The suppressed appetite accelerates the search for a political solution. The accelerated search brings the time of the big sentence closer. What brings the time closer is the logistics that remain silent today. Silent logistics change the game without shouting. How far can Putin take this scenario? The foreign exchange cycle revolving around crude oil, refined products, grain and metals is already under pressure. As the cost of external supplies and insurance premiums rise, the marginal cost of the war machine increases. A country changed the game without shouting. And it did so, not with a number, but with a calendar. The figure 850,000 is not a mere poster. It is a sign of a flow. The value of the flow is the fire that does not die out on the third day. The fire that does not die out is rhythm. Rhythm leaves mass on paper. Mass that remains on paper cannot walk on the field. An attack that cannot walk on the field cannot grow at the table. A narrative that cannot grow at the table eventually declines. When the narrative declines, the silent plan is heard. The name of the heard plan is the Tempo Machine, established by the Czech Republic. Thank you for watching.